Hey, it's Cameron with the Atlas Strength Shop, and today I'm going to be working up to a heavy triple with the overhead press. So, it's as good a time as any to go ahead and go over some of the finer points of that movement with y'all. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to film some of my warm-up protocol, so you'll be able to see what I do for that, and you can work some of that into your warm-up routine. We're going to look at some of the equipment that I like to use. I'm going to go over some of the finer points of the lift using PVC pipe and an empty barbell. I'll be coaching somebody else through the lift, and we'll also show footage of me doing this lift as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully y'all enjoy it. So now you're going to see me do a series of hangs. I'll start with a passive hang. It's just nothing going on, just letting everything stretch out. Then I'll pull at the shoulder girdle, and this is what's called an active hang. I just depress the scapula, and that's all I'm doing. Nothing going on in the elbows. Then you'll see me press against the bar and retract the scapula, and this puts me into something called a swan. Go all the way back down to passive, do it one more time, active, and the swan. Get everything nice and warm. In the interest of keeping this video shorter, I'm going to do an abbreviated version of this. Usually I like to do 15 to 20 of each of these movements, but I just hook up a mini band. I got these from Elite FTS around the rack, and they call these YTWLs. So first you make what looks like a Y. You just do that by pulling out at about a 45-degree angle. Next you make a T. Oops. Next you make a T, and you just do that by pulling off to the side just like this. Shoulders starting to get warm. Next you make W's. Now the way you do this is you're going to pull towards the outside of your shoulder, just like this, similar to a face pull. See, it makes a W. And then the L's, I don't know why they call these L's, but they do. Pull to a 90-degree, and then you just rotate out just like this. And by the time you get about 15 to 20 of each of these, shoulder's gonna feel nice and warm. Another thing I really like doing, just because my shoulders tend to get pretty tight, I don't know the actual name of this, that's called the nunchuck stretch, but I'll just take a broomstick or a wooden dowel. You can do this with stiff PVC. And I'll just basically catch myself in a little bit of a shoulder lock. And then very gently, I'll use the leverage of this bar to kind of crank back on my shoulder. I like doing this before I do any kind of overhead press work. I also like doing this before I squat, especially with low bar. And I find I can get into that position a hell of a lot easier this way. So yeah, don't get crazy with it, because it's not exactly the most comfortable thing in the world, but it tends to open me up quite nicely. So again, you just catch yourself in a little bit of a lock, you just gently crank back, just like that. All right. So now let's talk about some of the equipment you can use. This is just what I use. You don't have to use all this equipment, or really any of it. It's not necessary. All you need is just you and the bar. But I find when I get into heavier weights, this does tend to help me. First, some elbow sleeves. I really started using elbow sleeves when I started doing a lot more low bar squatting in my programming. Just because if you've ever done a lot of low bar squatting, you'll notice it tends to start to ache your elbows. So I got these in order to kind of help save my elbows during some of these heavier sets. And I find it works. My elbows don't hurt as much as they used to. Now, some will say that's not the right answer, that if they're starting to hurt, then you should do something else. But the body can only take so much wear and tear, and you just want to do things to help keep it going. Elbow sleeves help me with that. So your breathing and your bracing is very important with the overhead press. The better your brace is, the better your energy transfer is going to be between you and the bar. I find a belt helps with that. Right now, I'm just using a no-name lever belt I got on Amazon. It was a lightning deal for like 50 bucks. It's not the best quality belt, but I've had it for a couple of years, and so far it's treated me well. It is starting to come apart a little bit. I've got a Pioneer belt on the way. I just ordered a single prong from them, and it ought to be here in about 6 to 8 weeks. So until then, I got this belt right here, and I'm also going to be using my Noble lifters, which if you've been paying attention to the channel, you know I like these. I did a video on them last week. I've been using my Adidas Power Lifts. This will be my first time doing overhead with these, but I expect them to do well, and that's just because I really want that nice hard sole, and I also find a little bit of a heel lift helps me with overhead press, especially if I want to do any kind of leg drive with it. Like I said though, you don't have to use all this equipment if you don't want to, but it's there if you need it. You gotta get it. Some people also like wrist wraps. I've never really used wrist wraps, so yeah, I don't have an opinion on them. Yeah, let's move on. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about the setup. The setup is a neglected part for a lot of people, but in my opinion, it is probably the biggest factor in whether or not people do well in this lift or not. You want a ritual. You want to do the same thing every time. Having a good setup, it's just gonna help you set up for success. So just take my word for it on this. The way I do it is I get the bar and I got it rolled all the way to the rack. Hand placement is going to be dependent on you. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The way I do it is I tend to put my thumb right at the base of the knurl. Then I wrap around over the top. And I do this so when I come underneath it, I can pack in my lats and get everything real tight. So next what I do is I get my belly breath. And that's when I pull myself under. So just for the sake of me actually being able to talk my way through this, act as though I still have my belly breath. So belly breath in. I pull myself under. I get my lats tight. I've got my triceps resting on my lat. And then I back up 1/2 step, 1 full step, 1/2 step. No more, no less. This gets me out of the rack enough to where nothing's going to be on the way, but not so far back that I've wasted a lot of energy. Notice the bar is a little bit off my chest. This is because my triceps are resting on my lats. And whenever I go to initiate this lift, I'll be able to take advantage of some stretch reflex in there. So again, in real time, what that's going to look like without me talking. Grab the bar, belly breath. Now I'm ready to push. When you get the bar unwrapped and it's in your hands, it's not exactly a comfortable feeling, because what you've done is you've basically wound your body up like a spring. And when you go to initiate that first press, you're releasing all that pent up energy, and that's what's going to get the bar over your head in the most efficient way possible. Now we're going to talk a little bit about bar path and hand placement. So I set it up like this so you can see exactly what I'm going to be doing. Just like when you're building a house and you're putting up your framework, the thing that is going to be the most structurally sound for your framework, your columns, what have you, it's going to be things that are straight up and down. That's what's going to support the most weight. It's the same with this. You're going to want to put as much of your framework, which is your skeleton, underneath the bar in a perpendicular line as you can. So this is where grabbing the bar in the right place comes into play. You're going to want to grab the bar in a way that makes it where when you pull yourself under that bar, your forearms are generally straight up and down, like pillars on a building. That's what's going to allow you to apply the most force. So now I want to talk about what your lower body is going to be doing during this lift, because it's very important that you make sure everything stays tight. you are literally flexing everything you can. Your quads, you're going to flex those as high as you can. You want to flex your butt to get your hips underneath your spine. And when you get your brace, you're going to cinch everything down tight. This is going to help you transfer as much energy into the bar as possible. And when you go to press, what you're going to wind up doing is move your head out of the way, and then you're going to drive your head through that window that you've created. Now we're going to go to the bar so you can see all this kind of put together at once. Now you may notice the bar, when you got a rack, is underneath your chin. So in order to get that out of the way, what you're essentially going to do, whenever you're in your rack position, you're going to move your head out of the way, and then you're going to drive your head through the window that you just opened. So, open the window, drive your head through. Open the window, drive your head through. Just like that. So now let's put everything together with the barbell. In real time, what that's going to look like. Go to re-rack the bar, the rack isn't going to move unless you've got some of those really flimsy squat stands you get on Amazon for like 50 bucks. So just walk straight into the rack, J-hooks will catch you, come down. When you're tired, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to aim to find that J-hook just right. Recipe for disaster, especially if you're in a crowded gym. That's how people get broken foot. The plates will just slide right off. So if you're doing that, you're probably not smart enough to use collars. So now let's talk about when you breathe. If you noticed during that last set, which is why I'm a little out of breath right now, I didn't breathe at all. Ideally, that's what you should be doing. But if you do have to breathe, which is going to happen if it's a really heavy set and you're going for high volume with that set, you're going to want to breathe when your skeleton is supporting the weight and not your muscle. This may seem counterintuitive, but just trust me on this. You're going to want to breathe at the top, because that is when your skeleton is supporting the weight. So what that's going to look like, you got everything tight, legs, ass, core, everything's braced, you already have your breath. You're going to press, take another breath, just like that. It's also important to realize you're not letting all of your air out. If you let all of your air out, the set might as well be over with this lift. You're keeping your core tight, keeping everything braced, and you're essentially breathing behind that shield. So short, choppy breaths, just get more oxygen into your body so that you can do that next set. So yeah, now let's go ahead and we'll cut to some footage of me actually working with somebody through their lifts and me doing the lifts myself. Hope you've learned a lot so far. Let's do it. Good, stay tight. Tuck your hips. Perfect. Now, if you notice, she didn't really do anything wrong, so it's going to be very hard for me to show y'all how to correct some of the issues. Maybe we'll get lucky and she'll do something wrong next time. I doubt it, though. Great, this is going to be an AMRAP set, so we'll see how many Benji's able to get. And when technique starts to break down, maybe we'll be able to correct those on the spot, get more reps. Alright, so you got to grip that bar. Good. Squeeze your butt underneath. Drive your head through. Good. Big belly breath. And one more. Drive your head through. Good. Good. Drive your head through. Perfect. It was awesome. Okay, now let's look at some of my lifts. Working on overhead today. So I'll show you some of my warm-up sets, and then we'll get to some of the heavier stuff. This is just a little easy 135. Nothing to see here. Notice I'm driving the head back through the window as soon as it clears my skull. What we get on there? So now it's 155. I think this is where it started to feel a little bit heavier. I got this for 5 the week before, so I wasn't too worried about getting this. But you'll see the bar speed is really slowed down compared to the last set. Driving the head right through. Good. Alright, so now we got 165 on there. I want you to watch what happens. So I get my brace, get under it, go to drive, first one comes up, and the second one stalls out. What I did, went off camera, I took some ammonia, and then I got back under it. First one flew up, second one, and then I barely squeezed out the third one for a new 3-rep max. So yeah, that's the video. If you liked it, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Tune in next time, and we will do a review on the Thompson Fat Pad. Don't forget to look us up on Facebook and Instagram, both at Atlas Strength Shop. Look forward to hearing from y'all soon. So until next time, y'all have a good one.